Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Women Like Me Stories and Business. I am your host, Julie Fairhurst, and today I'm so excited. I am with Deanna Alvarez, and she is a recent writer in one of our books. This book is going to be coming out this coming Friday, November 29th, 2024. So if you're watching this podcast or video after that, then you know the book's already out. And if you want to go buy it, you can because it'll be on Amazon. So our book is called When Life Breaks You Open, Moments That Change Everything. And I just believe that it is the moments, little things here and there, moments that do change everything. So, Deanna, welcome, my dear. Thank you for being here. And why don't we start by having you tell the listeners or our viewers what just a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Julie. I am actually so happy to be here. I got a calling saying that I should be writing in this book. And so it really touched my heart because I've been invited other times and this was the moment. So it is just mine. I don't know, something's over me and I just feel so calm and relaxed. I am actually from San Francisco, California. Moved out to Las Vegas, Nevada in January of 2017.
Oh,
So it will be 8 years now that I have lived out here in Las Vegas. Currently, I am a stay at home and I work part time. So I just got back into working again. So it has been a whirlwind. My body is trying to get used to everything, but it's a blessing at the same time. I love to advocate for individuals, as you know, and so that is my passion.
mhm.
But it's hard being out here from time to time because I do miss my father and my cousins
Mm.
because I am the only one here in Las Vegas.
And
But
where are they located?
they're all in San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, they're all in the San Francisco area. Ah,
Yeah.
and what
So I'm the only, actually, my cousin's daughter, though, they live in Oregon.
Well, what made you move to Las Vegas?
After my divorce, my girlfriend and I moved in together to share the expenses out of California. As you all know, the rents are extremely high. And she decided her children were starting to get married, have babies. And so she wanted to move closer to them. So once I knew she was moving, I was like, okay, time to relocate. And so one of my cousins suggested Vegas because it was closer to the Bay Area for everybody. And so the prices were really reasonable out here. And so I thought, okay. And I've had two really good friends that had already settled here in Las Vegas.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
it was comforting to know that I knew people here in
Yes,
the Vegas
yes.
area.
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. Oh, good for you. Well, of course, I'm Canadian, so when I go to Vegas, it's whoo, party time, gamble, woo, woo, woo. And then I think about all you people that live there, and I think you can't possibly go to casinos every single day.
Well, it's funny. In the beginning, my girlfriend said, once you get situated, you'll get tired of the
Yes.
strip.
Yeah.
And it was true. In the beginning, it was so much fun just to go down there and experience everything. But then after a certain point in time, it's like, okay, I've had enough. That's okay.
Yes.
When my family comes out here, of course, we go down to the strip and we take them to Fremont Street to the arts and craft, the
Yes.
arts. But mostly I just stay up where I reside. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yes. Probably the safest place for your wallet.
Yeah, but then there's a casino. I have three casinos in a 2 block radius.
Holy cow. Well,
So,
you gotta have some good tunnel vision around to save yourself in Vegas.
yeah,
Aw. Well,
yeah.
Deanna, I am so excited to talk to you about your story. Um, So I, we didn't mention yet that you grew up with a disability. Do you want to explain that a little bit about what disability you have and or have and
Yeah. So
yeah.
I have to say, in whole honesty, and I wake up every morning, Julie, and bless myself because cerebral palsy it's not diagnosed right away, but it happens during the birth canal.
Oh,
And so it wasn't diagnosed immediately that I had cerebral palsy. And with cerebral palsy, you could be wheelchair bound for life. You could be put into a home where people have to care for you because it's just hard on their parents and they can't do that.
yeah.
Um, but yet I function pretty well. I mean, it's affected I have cognitive issues from time to time. It affects my entire left side of my body.
Mm,
So I didn't walk until I was 4. I had speech therapy as I went to my disability school and taught me how to speak. I didn't ride a bike until I was in 2nd grade. And
mm.
I think that was the first and last time I ever rode a bike, to be honest,
Yeah.
until I was married with my husband.
Oh,
But and then, so there was, and then I had physical therapy throughout my
wow.
time.
Yeah.
But again, I am extremely blessed because there's different category. I don't know if it's the right word to use, but it's just from extreme to non-extreme.
I
So
guess
it just
different
depends.
levels. Different
Thank
levels, I
you.
guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Well, can you tell us what was it, what was your view of the world growing up like that? Did you feel that you were a little bit different from a lot of the other folks or was it like was it a lot harder for you to cope? I mean, I understand that you didn't walk until you were 4. That's quite late in for children, but how was it as a little child growing up and having cerebral palsy?
Well, I think it depends on the person. For myself, the little girl inside me had challenges. Um, it was hard because I was the middle child of 3 girls. And so being the middle child of 3 girls, the other 2 were what they say normal
Hmm.
children
Yeah.
and could do things. And so it was hard for me to maneuver and to get around. I was always in the beginning, I was in the wheelchair that I remember.
Mhm.
I would come home from school and my mom would put me out, you know, outside of the wheelchair. And then my sisters, I remember, would like to play in the wheelchair. So they would kind of like ride around and I would just watch them.
Yeah.
Because once I was outside of the wheelchair, everything stopped. I couldn't push myself. I
Mhm.
always had to have someone push me. And we're talking um, the years, between I was born in 1960. So from 1960 to where we are today, disabilities have changed dramatically as far as where to go for assistance.
Yes. Yes.
It
Yes.
just didn't happen. It didn't have that
Yeah.
um, back when I was first born
Yeah.
and into the early 70s. It wasn't available. So once my school stopped with my disability, with my physical therapy and everything stopped.
Ah. Well,
And
what was it like in school for you? So did you go to just a regular, like for example, elementary school, or were you in a special class, or what kind of education were you getting? Because back in the 60s, I get it. We're like way above that now. But back
right.
there was a lot of challenges for people with disabilities, lots of challenges.
Yeah. So for myself, I was in a disability school up until 2nd grade. And they went to my parents and said, we can only do so much for Deanna because I wasn't severe enough, if that's the right
Yes, I
word to
understand.
use.
Yeah.
They were saying they can only do so much for me. And it was time that I went into a normal school.
Hmm.
And so there was no transition back in the day.
Uh,
So I finished my second grade, I think it was, in my handicap school. And then come September, there I was in my regular school. So there was no
wow.
transitioning. And it was extremely difficult for me because nobody was like me in
Right.
my I was bullied every day from this one child
Oh,
and just made fun of and chased. And um, it was extremely difficult. The teachers were compassionate and understanding and very loving in some sense. And so when I was there and felt like something was going on, I could go to one teacher and they would help me, you
yeah.
know. Um, but it was after school where I found it was more challenging because I didn't look like anybody. At
Right.
that point in time, I had sometime, I'm not sure when the brace came off, but I wore a brace. And when I walked, I didn't walk like regular people. I really couldn't do PE. Although they wanted me to do PE, it was very difficult to do PE. I
Right.
couldn't hang on the monkey bars. I couldn't do certain things that they were wanting me to do. And
Yeah.
so it was hard. It was difficult.
Yeah.
And so I think my parents, because of the time, they didn't really, so they kind of treated me as though I didn't have a disability. And I look back at that now, how it really affected me down the line.
Yes.
Because as I've gotten older, I'm now in my 60s. I used to fall a lot. Well, the falls are coming back.
Oh,
I've taken 4 major falls from 22 to 23.
oh,
And the last fall, I fractured my dominant hand.
oh.
So it's it's kind of like the circle of life, how things come back, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And my father just reminds me, Dee, slow down. You
Yeah.
don't need to be in you. Where are you going? What are you doing? You know, let them
Yeah.
wait for you,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
probably really good advice.
So, and he's always told me that he was my cheerleader. He
Yeah.
and my dad's family were my cheerleaders, were my support team.
Yeah. Well, one
Yeah.
of my next question for you is, how did the relationship between your father and your mother differ? Because I know from your story that there was definitely a closer connection to your father, and your mother, I think, was in your relationship was a bit distant.
Right. I think my mom as a whole didn't know how to handle a child with a disability.
Mm.
Found it difficult. And I think found it even more difficult once my parents divorced, because when my father was in the house, he was supportive of me. And he always said, let her try. If she falls, okay, she'll get back up again. You
Mm.
know, so my support, so the support team and the communication broke,
Mm.
and so I think my mom always, from when I remember, had a hard time with my disability.
Mhm, mhm.
And part of that probably was guilt,
Yes, you
you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
And as a child growing up, you don't realize a lot of things. You're just angry,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know. And I was very expressive.
Yeah. Well, that leads into my next question
Yeah.
because in your story, you talk about spending some time in an adolescent psychiatric unit.
Yes.
So what? What do you want to explain that? What was going on?
So that was in my teenage years,
Oh,
and I was bounced around. So my mom and I, as I stated in the beginning, we just conflicted, and she had a difficult time. And so it was easier for her to give me to somebody else, I think,
hmm
because of the dynamics and the stress in the household.
hmm
So for her, at that point in time, um, with my, because I was very, how do you say it, verbally aggressive, abusive.
Mm.
But I always learned that from her because when she and my father were married, she was verbally abusive to my father. And
Right.
she would throw things and yell. And I remember at one point throwing things out of the window. So I remember picking up that behavior. But the difference was I got in trouble for it.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I think when my father left, that was the only way that I could vent because I didn't know how to vent otherwise. And so I became a problem child to her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember her asking my sister and me, why don't you go take Deanna out and look for a coat for her for Christmas? And so my sister and I went into the car because my sister had her license then. And we came back. And as we came back, it just seemed really funny, weird.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's car was there and I wasn't sure why and things of that nature. And they both agreed to take me to a hospital um, because I had problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point in time, it was like easier for my mom, just to give me to somebody else to care for.
Mm-hmm. And so,
Um,
but your issue was really just more anger. You were just an angry child, which I could understand.
yeah, I was an angry child. My sisters did things that I couldn't do because my mom was afraid for me to do them. So I was always just neglected or watched, had to sit there and watch people do things while I just sat there and ignored.
Yeah.
Um, I and so I became a very angry child.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point in time, I think my mom decided that she wanted me to go in the hospital. Before I went into the hospital, I was bounced around. I lived with my beautiful aunt and her family, who I talk about in the story.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was home. I only went for a weekend
Yeah.
and ended up staying there for over a year because the day that I thought my mom was picking me up, she actually came with all my suitcases and said, "Here, Gloria."
Oh, well, they've
And
got,
so,
yeah. I mean, it sounds like, I mean, it sounds sad and cold, but on the other hand, it sounds like just what you needed because there was care and warmth and love.
yeah. And they accepted me as like if I was their own child. And so I know, and as I got older, there was a lot of resentment from my mom when she would see things, my relationship with my aunt and her family, especially when my uncle named me. He did nicknames for the children and his wife,
Oh,
and so I would call him Booby because that's what his nickname was, and I was Blah Blah because I
oh.
talk a lot.
That's so
So if
cute.
So we were in a conversation together. If my mom happened to be at this event with everybody, I would say that, and she goes, my mom would correct me, and then they would say, no, she has every right to call him that,
Yeah.
or every right to call Gloria that because she's our family. She's part of our family, and so um, it made me a stronger person, I believe. Um, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I went to the hospital
Yeah.
and I was in the hospital for a little over a month. And I didn't really belong there because the hospital was more for runaways, for drug addicts. And so my doctor at the time would say, Deanna, if you really want to get out of here, you need to go to counseling. You need to go to group counseling. You need to do everything they are asking you to do. And so I made sure I did that. So then when it was time for me to go home, I could go home.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, what do you think you what stands out most from your time that you spent there? I mean, I know it was only a month, but it's a pretty dramatic change from being in your family environment to all of a sudden being thrust. What do you think, what stands out the most to you, or what realizations, was there anything in there that sort of, other than of course counseling and stuff, but what were the lessons that maybe you took away from that experience?
So it really made me grow
Mm. Hmm.
and become stronger for myself
Yes.
and I grew up, I was 14 or I can't remember. The ages are just kind of all come
That's okay.
together.
That's
But I remember my father saying, you're going to, you're just going to experience things that your sisters and siblings will never experience. And he was so right on because
Mm.
I had to grow up so fast
Yeah.
from the hospital. I had to really make sure it was scary. It was dark. Um, the people were not my type of friends who I would meet on a daily basis.
Right.
So I just made sure that I listened to what my doctors told me and to do everything that they are asking me to do. So I went from not arguing to really trying to be a good girl,
Hmm.
not
Yes.
because that's the only way I was going to get out of that hospital. I was in hospitals before.
Yes.
I've had major surgeries because of my disability.
Yeah.
I couldn't walk. My foot was like this. So
Oh,
they had to remove a bone and make it straight, so I've had
yeah.
multiple different surgeries.
Yeah.
And the hospital that I was in was not the hospital that I once knew. It was dark, it
Right.
was cold, it was quiet. The elevator, once you get off the elevator, you just knew you're not in Kansas anymore.
No. No.
It's
No.
so,
No.
it was so cold
Oh.
and and I felt like people were in straitjackets sometimes. And,
Mm.
it was just not a place for me.
I understand. I completely understand. And again, thinking back to the 60s, that's what they did with a lot of
Mhm.
people that had disabilities, ended up in hospitals, and thank goodness we've grown since then.
Oh my God. I mean, I know people now with disabilities or even cerebral palsy, and
Yeah.
just the amount of information that is out there. I
Yeah.
even, living here in Vegas, when I fell, I had no family here. So it was like trying to learn to advocate for myself as a person who has cerebral palsy, trying to get help to come in to help me shower, to help me cook. I couldn't even cut an apple with my hand. There were so many things that was very difficult for me to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Wow. So, so you mentioned being an advocate for yourself, but you also in your story talked about being an advocate for your nephews, because you had a couple of nephews that came and lived with you and your husband, and you had to do a lot of fighting for
Right.
them. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Michael and Robert, they came and lived with us. And his parents, Don and Shirley, were caring for them. His sister, who had both of the children, was drug alcohol.
Hmm.
And so she just wasn't able to care for them like she should. And so his parents were caring for him, but they were in their late 70s.
Ah.
And so Tom came home one day and expressed to me that they're coming to live with me over the weekend, or us. And I went, wait, what? And then he's like, yeah, I told my mom that we would care for them. So they're going to come and live with us because Sharon can't take care of them. And my mom and dad are getting old.
Mhm.
And so they did. They came and lived with us and we cared for them. And they were a certain age, but yet they weren't mentally and physically at that age yet. So we really had to make sure that they had certain things for them. The one thing that was important was their schooling, that they were going to be going to a new school. Are they going to be able to transfer easily? And I kind of understood that because how I went from one school over to another. So
Yeah.
I went, at that time, I was in early childhood development. I was a preschool teacher. And so I went and talked to the teachers ahead of time before Michael and Robert came in to live with us and explained the scenario over to them so they knew exactly what was coming into their home or into their school, into their
Right.
classroom.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to have really good teachers and understanding teachers. So they were really appreciative that they had a background of understanding on how to help them um, move forward in their class.
Yeah.
And Robert didn't stay with us very long because the natural father came and took him away. And so once it took and left Michael with us, and they were together when this occurred. So Michael just, it broke my heart because he only took Robert. He only wanted Robert and left Michael with us. And so that was just devastating and even put Michael back a little further. And he started having accidents in school and things like that. And so it was just really devastating. And so it was important to me and my husband to make sure that he got what he needed.
Yes. Yes. And I think that seems to be the theme of your awareness that you want the public to understand is making sure people get what they need.
Right, because there's so many things that I've learned in these past 2 years being out here in Las Vegas is that you really have to advocate. It's really hard to get assistance
Mhm.
unless you know where to go.
Yes. And then even when you figure that out, I would, going through I have we have a few nieces and nephews in my family that have some disabilities, and sure, you get diagnosed, but then where do you go? How do you get the help? Where do you get the treatment from? Where are the resources? It's a lot of work to try to navigate the system.
Yeah, and I was again, I find myself extremely blessed because I have had so many different angels that God has sent me, that has cared for me and loved me and given me the strength that I need to get through whatever I was going through at that point in time.
Yeah.
And when I say that, when I fell, I reached out to a really good friend. Her name, I don't want to share, but
That's okay. Yeah.
um, she had a child and she's an old family friend. I've known her forever. And when I lived with my father, her brother was like a brother to me, the brother I never had.
Yeah.
And so he and she were extremely important to me. And so when I fell and I knew that I needed assistance, her first child is born with cerebral palsy.
Uh-huh.
And she advocated for him so much and still advocates for him today.
Mm.
And she's very active with San Francisco ARC. And so she was able to say, Deanna, you need to call this organization. Deanna, you need to call this organization. You need to reach out to this company and see if they can. I mean, if it wasn't for her being out here by myself, I would have been so lost
Yes. Yes.
because I've called organizations. Oh, I feel like I'm not disabled enough, because I walk or because I'm not in a wheelchair or, you
Right.
know, my husband passed away and because of my disability and my falls, I've been on Social Security and they gave me my husband's Social Security. But because they see me as a widow having my husband's Social Security,
Yeah.
I disqualify for a lot of programs. And
Oh,
I go, I'm still disabled, and so I've had to really fight for certain agencies coming in to help me, because and then with that being said, they only give me like 2 or 3 hours a week.
Mm.
That's not a day.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and so with that, it's like, wait a minute, I need, I have a hard time showering. My dominant hand is broken.
Yeah.
You know, I can't wash my hair. I can't cook anymore.
Yes.
And so, and I don't mean to be inconsiderate to the state of Nevada,
No, no, of
but the
course.
one thing that I learned, and this was through Pat, and she goes, Deanna, I really wish, wasn't good, and I really wish you would have called me before you went to Vegas, because the healthcare system isn't the way it is in California.
Gotcha.
So
Yes. Yes.
everything I had in California, I automatically thought followed me here to Vegas.
It didn't
And
happen.
it doesn't happen. Their healthcare system needs a lot of work.
Oh dear.
And so if anyone says to me, oh, well, what do you think about me? I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
want a really good healthcare system from California and over here, I would think twice before.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about the importance of having systems for individuals and for individuals with disabilities. So, and you talk about planning, planning.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about that or? Yeah.
So again, when I broke my dominant hand, I have fallen, I don't know how many times in my life. I'm
Mm.
64 today. And
Oh,
so
is it
this
your
was the,
birthday today?
oh, not today, it was
Oh,
last week
I was gonna
sometime, but
say.
no, but I actually turned 64 this month. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
um, so with that being said, I didn't realize that, I'm sorry, can you ask that question
Sure, yeah.
again?
So about the systems, because I know that in your story you talked a lot about making sure you feel that there was no planning for the balance of your life, for your adulthood. And so you talked in your story about wanting to make sure that you could pass along the lesson for parents who might be dealing with any kind of disability for
Yeah,
children.
so thank you for getting me back on track. But
Yeah.
anyway, what that means is that anybody who has a child with a disability, especially a child who is severely disabled and cannot care for themselves,
Mhm.
they really need to have something planned out for them. So my girlfriend thought that I maybe would have had a trust put together for me,
Mm.
so that if in case that I needed guidance and assistance, I had the finances to get assistance coming in to help me. And at that point in time, it never happened.
Right.
And so what I learned through my advocacy is that whether you have a child in some type of disability, especially a severe disability, and you no longer could care for them, and let's say what happens if one of the parents or parents pass away, what is going to happen to this child? They really need to put some type of trust together, make sure that they have the financial being so that they can care, that either a family member or someone else can care for this individual for the remainder of their life. I
Yes.
know a lot of families want them the child to stay with them in their home. And I have an example. I just started working at an assisted living community, and people ask me, about my disability because they see my hand and they think I've had a stroke, but I tell them, no, I have cerebral palsy, but I'm very blessed.
Yeah.
And one individual shared a story that her brother had cerebral palsy, but they ended up having to put him in a hospital because the younger sibling started acting like the the child who had cerebral palsy.
Oh, I see.
And the parents had the most difficult. They were saying, well, you could put him in a home to get the help he needs, and then the younger child cannot mimic him. So it looks like, and it wasn't out of, how do I say this? It wasn't out of malice.
Mhm.
She just wanted to copy her brother,
Yes, yes,
you
yes,
know,
yeah.
and she stopped talking because
Oh,
her brother didn't talk. And
oh.
she didn't want to walk because her brother didn't walk. And
Mhm.
so the parents had to make a huge decision to put the child in a home, a facility that would be able to help him.
Mhm.
And it really broke my heart that,
Yeah,
but again, let's say you don't put financial money aside for that, or you don't think of doing that, where's this child going to go?
yes, yes, yes.
You know?
Yes, I think and it's a important lesson to bring up because I think we get so caught up in our daily busy lives and I didn't have a child with a disability in my life but I did work in for geez back in the 80s, I did work and in group homes with children that had severe disabilities. And it's difficult, I think, as a parent, from what I viewed, to think, you know, day by day is so stressful for them. And then just to try to think of the future, like they're so focused on what's happening
Right.
right now, and that is can be so overwhelming that to try to think, okay, well, what am I going to do in 30 or 40 years when I'm not capable of caring for my child, or heaven forbid I'm not here. I think it can be a real, I can see how people don't have that forward thinking.
Right. And it's not that, I know they don't want to think about it at the time either. So
Yeah.
it's like me putting a will together.
Yes,
I finally got
yes,
one
that's,
together,
oh
but
my
it's like
gosh.
every year, it's like okay, I'm going to do it next year. Okay, I'll do it next year. You know, um, my friends,
Yes.
my friends in California, they're so funny, but I'm more, it's, they know I'm here in Vegas because it's more for their survival. Financially, I can do
Yes,
it better here.
of
So it's
course, of
easier for
course.
me to do that. However, if I pass away, I have three good friends who I know that Deanna cannot be buried here. Deanna cannot be left here. She
Don't
has to
be in
go back
Vegas.
home.
Yeah. Aw.
But unless you don't get it on paper, it's not going to happen.
No, that's
And
right.
so you
Yeah.
think of things like that, but it's like parents probably even think about their children, you know, um, even even if you have a child who is perfectly healthy and an emergency happens, you
Yes.
need to make sure that the finances, that that they know where to go. My thing is, I just want the people to know where to go. I have learned so much because I am a senior now. um, and I'm catching up to my father. And so it's funny like that. But anyway, it's, you need to know as a senior, even living in another state or here in Las Vegas, what resources you have for
Yes.
guidance, for help. I mean, when COVID happened, um, I felt at a loss because everything happened and I was alone. And where am I going to go for certain resources?
Hmm.
So I probably found out more about the resources as I was researching my fall and
Hmm.
trying to get people in here. What actually is available now for me that
Yes.
I can get people in to help me. And it's easier if they have it all kind of laid out for them so that if in case something does happen,
Yeah.
they have the paperwork, where to go,
Yes.
what to do,
Yes.
and it's all part of making things easier for them.
Yes, the services are sometimes all the services are not there, but there are some services. I know I'm in Canada, but it's very similar in Canada too. If you have an issue, there are services out there, but how do you find those services? And then, how do you deal with them? We have a family member that has a mental health issue, and it is so the paperwork, just the paperwork alone to fill out is so cumbersome and overwhelming that it doesn't get done
Right,
because that person can't do them. But yet it's like they're stuck in between because they get that you can't that the paperwork's overwhelming for them, but without the paperwork, you're not getting any help.
right. And that's happened to me. I was referenced to an organization out here, and they have them in California as well. And this one would be Desert Regional. And what it does is it helps people with disabilities. And so the the downfall to that is that you have to prove that you have a disability first. So I had to go and get all my medical records showing that yes, I was born with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
I mean, they could see if they saw, because everything's done through the phone right now or Zoom, but no one's coming into the office, depending upon the organization. So everything, you have to make sure you have the correct documentation. And then you have to make sure that you get SSI. And if you have SSI, they want to take the full check from you. And then they'll get you into a home with a disability, like a group home setting for people who have disabilities. But as I learned about that individual program, because I'm not disabled, extremely disabled, and I can function on my own, I felt that I didn't want to give them my full disability check. I'm still can function. Now, if something happened to me and I had a stroke and I wasn't able to function for myself, I
Right.
do need someone to step in, and I do have someone to step in and take care of me and make sure that the right thing is put in order.
Right.
But I felt that I was disappointed in one sense because I still have cerebral palsy. I
Right.
still need help,
Yes.
but they weren't able to help me
Mm.
because, of the certain limitations and certain things that,
Mhm.
so that's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's come a long way since the 1960s and 70s, yes, but
Yes.
I still think it has a long way to go. And
Yeah.
I think if I can help a mother, a father, a child, an adult, a senior to know what resources and where to go, then I've done my job.
Oh,
And
well,
I think
yeah.
that's what's important to me in today's world, because I've always felt like I've had to fight for something.
Mhm.
But this past year and a half, it was really difficult. And so I really needed to, um, I really needed to find the resources. And if you don't know where you're going to go, you're just, you're sitting there at a loss.
Yeah, and or you don't have the ability, or you just don't even have the energy or the
Mm-hmm.
mental energy to deal with it.
Well, and for me, because of the falls, Julie, and I don't speak a lot about this, major depression,
Yes, yes, yes.
feeling like suicidal,
Oh,
not having the 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 availability. My thing was, okay, I could go back on Social Security,
hmm.
but if SSI, instead of my taking my husband's Social Security, because we both never married, um, but then I would be homeless
Right. Yes,
because my Social
yes,
Security
yes.
doesn't make the amount of income for me now to live here in Vegas.
Hmm.
So it's like I'm still disabled. So why can't you see me as being disabled
Yes.
just because I collect my husband's social security,
Yes.
you know? So there's a lot, I'm
Yes.
learning a lot. Someone did
Mm,
tell me that recently, that because they don't change the laws of social security, it would open up so many different things and then we could lose certain things. So
mm.
I don't know what they're going to do in order to
Yeah.
make it better for us here in the United States. I
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah. It's yes, I understand exactly what you're saying, and it shouldn't be so hard. It just
No.
shouldn't be so hard. No. Aw. Well, what do you hope other people take away from hearing your story?
For me, I hope that they have hope. Hope is huge. Trust
Yeah.
that they're not alone,
Yeah.
that there are resources out there
Mm-hmm.
that can guide them. I'm at home most of my time, and so I don't mind helping people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind if someone was to reach out to me from your podcast and say, how can you help me? And
Yes.
if I have to call another state in order to find out what their resources are, I can do that because I have the time to do that.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I just want to be able to make sure that they know that they're not alone.
Hmm.
Because for me, as the younger child in me, that little girl was so alone.
Mhm.
And when I realized certain things in my adulthood, I'm so glad to know that she is loved
Aw.
and that, and I hold her tight to because of her experiences and everything that she had to go through in
Aw.
life. And I wanted to end this as, to me, a tribute to my Auntie Gloria. We didn't really talk about my angels,
Yes.
but if it wasn't for my angels, especially my Aunt Gloria and her family, I don't know how my life would have turned out,
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
And
Yeah.
so if I can give anybody out there hope
Mm-hmm.
and a way to think of calling an organization and just seeing what type of help they can get. And one more thing, Julie, here in Vegas, they have what they say a 211 organization. So
Okay.
it has to be in other states as well, something similar. And what they do is you call that number and they have a list of a variety of different organizations that you may be able to get resources from.
Oh, beautiful.
So and that's how between Pat and 211, that's how I found my help through with my disability and my last fall.
Yeah.
So it's like there's if they need help finding those organizations,
Yeah.
have them reach out to me. I know I gave you my email,
Yes,
but
yes, yes.
that's yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in the details section of the video and the podcast, the information you gave me will be there. So if anybody would like to reach out to Deanna for any kind of guidance as to what direction to go, she's certainly willing to take the time to do it because she's
Yes.
at home and she's got time.
Yeah, I just started this job, but it's fun. But for me, advocacy is
Yeah.
my heart.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I feel that's where God led me.
Yes. Aw.
Yeah.
Well, I have two more questions for you, my dear. And
Okay.
one of them is about your angels, because you did talk about your aunt Gloria and other family members as you were growing up and into your adulthood. But who are your angels in your life today, and how do they continue to inspire you?
I have a group of angels in California who have supported me since I left Vegas, who is inspiring me every day to be the person that I am and
Oh,
reminds me every day to to not listen to the negativity because there is so much negativity out there.
yes,
And the one thing my father always said to me is you're going to hear certain things throughout your life. They're jealous of you. They want you to pull you down.
yes,
They don't want to see you happy.
yeah,
And I have to, in whole honesty, even say that included family members.
yeah.
And so the person that I am today is because of the angels who have loved me in my life, especially these past few years. I have one individual who reaches out to me consistently, who makes sure that I am being taken care of and that I am loved.
Oh,
And so I don't know where I would be in this time of my life without these three special people.
oh,
And I'm thinking now maybe even four.
oh.
But I am blessed that God has always brought me these beautiful people because they have inspired me.
Mhm.
They have made me feel that I am worth something when I didn't feel that I was worth something,
Mm.
and has made me realize that I'm a beautiful individual and a beautiful soul.
I think that's what we're supposed to do for one another is help bring out the best and let everybody know that everybody has beauty.
Mhm.
Everybody has goodness and love. I love that, Deanna. I just love it. So let me ask you my final question. You ready? Okay.
Okay.
What's next for you on your journey? And how can others support your mission or your advocacy?
So for me, I let go of my own individual business. I was selling essential oils, and I just felt that I needed to step away and concentrate more on advocating.
Yes.
Um, Child advocacy is special to me, and I'm actually getting ready to take one of their classes here in Vegas. So I can be assigned a child in the court system and act as their advocate.
Oh,
That is throughout the United States. So it's offered in every state, and it's a CASR, Child Advocate Special Representatives. And so
oh,
these is all volunteer. And as a matter of fact, when I learned about it, I was still married to my husband and I had been on medical leave. And so I was looking for something easier, not as, not so much in the job working with my hands because my hands weren't well. And so I was so excited, and I told my husband, "Yay, I got this
yeah.
interview at an advocacy place, and I'm so excited." And came back, and he's like, "Did you get it? Did you get it?" And I go, "I got it. And I start next week, and I'm so excited." And then he's like, "Well, how much, honey?" And I said, "Oh, it's just volunteer." But it's the best volunteer
Oh, yes.
business that anybody can do because it's for a child in the court system. It's
Mhm.
my advocate was my Aunt Gloria and her family.
Yes.
My dad was my advocate.
Yeah.
Um, Anita is my advocate. Laura, Lisette. I mean, the list goes on. It's
Yeah.
just mind blowing because I feel that God is calling me to advocacy right now. I've been in property management for over 18, 19 years, but I really believe that my time now until is being an advocate. And I've learned to advocate for myself. And so if people need help, um, I would be more than happy to look into their state. And if I have to call a friend and say, well, where do you think I can get this?
Yeah.
And then they can guide me, I will do that. I
Um,
just feel right now that God is calling me to that place.
yeah. Yeah. Uh, you are a beautiful soul.
Oh, thank
Just such a
you.
caring, beautiful soul. You really are, Deanna. I hope people reach out, but I hope millions don't, or I hope they do, but hopefully it doesn't kill your email. There's a lot of
I
people that
just
can use some help out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's, even working at
yeah,
where I'm at right now,
yeah.
people call in, and if they don't qualify, I give them the information that I've learned where to
Yes,
call.
yes,
And
yes.
there's, it's just that little piece of hope.
Hmm. Hmm.
And for me, it's just a blessing that even though I've gone through the challenges, I'm so much better today.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, well, Deanna, I just I really appreciated you for being so willing to be so open and vulnerable with your story when you wrote it in the book. Because sometimes it's not easy to talk about some of the things that we've had to deal with in our lives, but you did it very gracefully, and I really appreciated that. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, the book is called When Life Breaks You Open. Moments That Change Everything. And the book is going to be released November 29th, 2024. So again, if you're watching it after this, the book's out there. You can pick it up and you can read Deanna's story and send her a message and let her know what you think. And also take her up on her very generous offer to share her knowledge and wisdom of how to get help. And as she said, even if she doesn't know herself, she's got connections that she can ask and hopefully be able to help you. So don't suffer. Reach out. There's people out there like Deanna that definitely are willing to help. Deanna, just appreciate you so much. And I just want to thank you again for writing and thank you for being on the podcast today. Is there any final words that you'd like to say to everybody that's watching or listening before we
Well,
close?
actually, Julie, I just want to thank you
Oh,
because I know we met over 2 years ago, and I never thought I would be able to write this particular story.
mm,
And for some reason, when you sent that email to me and I received it, I'm 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 a religious person, and I just feel that at that point in time, God told me I received a message from God, and He spoke to me, and He says, "You're ready." And you just held my hand through the whole process. And
oh,
I am so glad that I was able to release the story.
oh.
And if I can help anybody out there that they're not alone, that there is hope, then thank you. And I appreciate that so very much.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Deanna. Thank you so much, love. Deep breath. Okay, well, we're done. Okay, all right, everybody, we're going to sign off now. And please support Deanna by reading her story and sending her some wonderful messages of what you thought of her story. And if you need to reach out, just know that she is there to help as well. Bye, everybody. Thanks again.
Bye. Thank you for having me.